Good afternoon. Today we shall be discussing Gerard Manley Hopkins's celebrated poem God's Grandeur. Gerard Manley Hopkins was an English poet and a Jesuit priest whose posthumous fame established him among one of the leading Victorian poets. His manipulation of prosody, particularly his concept of the sprung rhythm, and his use of imagery in order to evoke complex religious and spiritual concepts established him as an innovative writer of verse, especially religious verse. And two of his most important themes, which come repeatedly in his works, are religion and nature. Now, the sonnet that we are to discuss today, God's Grandeur, is essentially a sonnet that has been interpreted and reinterpreted by critics in various lines of thought. The sonnet is difficult merely because it does not yield to a single convincing or clinching strand of interpretation. Some critics, for example, have described the sonnet as an attack on the industrial ugliness and squalor of 19th century England, and as a parable of Hopkins's own spiritual pilgrimage from restlessness to repose and from doubt to faith, Christian faith. It has been treated again as an example of the Italian sonnet form, where the octave is used to present a dilemma which the poet apparently is unable to resolve, and the sestet to break out of it by the power of the statement of religious belief. The images of the poem, the flame, the shook foil, the crushed oil, the east-west antithesis, the Holy Ghost as dove in the final lines, have been subject to analysis, more or less illuminating in various strands of biblical interpretation. Apparently, the poem opens with a statement of the beauty and power, the grandeur of God in the world of nature. God the Holy Ghost, the third person of the Trinity, is revealing himself to men, according to Hopkins, in dazzling splendor. The first two lines, with their emphatic stresses and their active verbs, are themselves strongly energetic. Abruptly, however, the images of power in action change. The third and the fourth lines of the poem, for example, confront us with its most elusive and most exhaustively discussed figure, the ooze of oil crushed. This is indeed the image on the right, reading of which a fuller understanding of the poem chiefly depends. The fulcrum of the poem, as it were. The oil the poet has in mind has no connection, perhaps, with the searing and smearing of the earth by man's toil, by the fires of industry, as contrasted with the divine fire. Nor is it the oil that is burnt in lamps, the oil which oozes through the wick to give light to men. It is apparently, as we know it, oil which is yielded from olive, produced quite literally by pressing or crushing olives. Indeed, we know that Hopkins originally wrote pressed before revising it to a much stronger crushed. The central contrast then in the first four lines of the sonnet is that of a grandeur or a greatness, revealed first in action, then in passion, first in doing, then in suffering. God's grandeur flames out in the world, but the olives must be crushed if their oil is to be gathered to a greatness. And the crushing of the olives for the oil is, in some mysterious way, linked to and yet contrasted with the flaming, shining Holy Ghost, charging the whole world with power. The link is not as yet developed in the first four lines. The poet turns to the theme of man's indifference to God's presence and his insistent demands on the spirit. Men are immersed in material things, in a life of repetitive, uninspired, mechanical toil, in getting and spending, to borrow Wordsworth's famous phrase, in the world is too much with us. They have seared, laid over with ashes, the living freshness of nature, and have insulated their own sensibilities against the divine presence as a shod foot is insulated against contact with earth and the green grass. These, the last four lines of the octave, are clearly an indictment of the modern world of industry and commerce, Hopkins's Victorian world, and its neglect of God. But the great contrasted yet connected images of the first four lines still wait, as it were, for the word which shall fuse them into one meaning of intense and concentrated power. In the sestet of the poem, action and passion, matter and spirit, the world of nature created by God, and the world of industry created by man, the world sinful and the world redeemed, man and God are all reconciled. And since Hopkins, unlike the earlier romantic poets, was neither pagan nor pantheist, it is of the Christian God in his three persons that he speaks, namely, God the Father, who created the world and saw that it was good, God the Son, who redeemed the fallen world by suffering and love, and God the Holy Ghost, who perpetually comforts and sustains it. In the sestet of the poem, the image of flame, the Pentecostal tongues of fire as it were, is converted into its companion image of the dove, brooding over the bent world, the world that is both crooked, bent from its true nature and function, and bent clearly under the burden of increasing sin. The poet's primary purpose in the poem apparently is not so much to condemn the world in which he found himself as to make a dramatic statement of the nature of the Christian triune God and God's dealing with men.